Hello studious minds, and welcome back to Pagan Philosophy, the channel where we strive to further our understanding of what it truly means to love knowledge. Today we'll be talking about the ancient Greek philosopher Plato, a man whose writings were some of the most influential philosophical treatises in history. Born in Athens in the 5th century BC, Plato was a member of a prominent aristocratic family. On his father's side, they claimed descent from Poseidon, the Greek god of the ocean. And two of his mother's relatives were members of the 30 Tyrants, a group who, under the direction of, you guessed it, Sparta, ruled the city of Athens after its defeat in the Peloponnesian War. At a young age, Plato would begin following Socrates and would record much of what we know about him. Following Socrates' death, Plato would go on to start his own philosophical school in the 380s BC called the Academy. You know, the big one in Athens. Of course, the name the Academy would not be used until later to describe the school of his inheritors. Plato eventually developed one of the most influential ideas in pagan philosophy, his theory of forms. But what are forms? Well, expanding on Socrates' idea that humans should strive to engage in intellectual pursuits, Plato developed the idea that there are perfect, intelligible components that govern all of reality. For example, there is not only the material sun, but also the immaterial sun. This would be the perfect, intelligible form of the sun. And this theory would apply to all things, including more abstract ideas like love and beauty. But for Plato, the primary form is the form of the good. This idea would be mirrored by his student Aristotle in his belief that all striving was directed towards the good. More on Aristotle in a later video. Living a remarkably studious life, Plato would later die in the mid-4th century BC in his birth city of Athens. But why are we discussing Plato here on the Pagan Philosophy channel? Well, Plato's philosophy was pagan. As I mentioned earlier, Plato's theory of forms would not only influence his immediate successors, like Aristotle, it would eventually move all the way down into late antiquity, in part shaping the idea of the later Neoplatonists, who seemingly did everything they could to hold on to the traditional religious ideas of the Roman Empire. But regardless, Plato was one of the most authoritative figures in the history of philosophy, and his concepts would be dispersed in many of the religious ideas to follow, including Christianity. Well, that's all for our extremely brief profile of Plato. Tune in soon for an upcoming profile on his almost equally influential student, Aristotle. And please, if you're interested in me profiling a certain pagan philosopher or a certain pagan philosophical school, please feel free to comment below and let me know. And always remember to subscribe if you're interested in becoming a student of ancient philosophy. But until next time, folks, stay studious. Well, expanding on Socrates' idea that's... But why are we discussing Plato here on the Pagan Philosophy channel? Following Socrates' death, Plato would go on to start his own philosophy. And this theory... For example, there is not only the sun, but also the immaterial sun. For example, there is not only the sun, the material sun.